We are live. Hey everyone, welcome to the weekly show of Classroom Without Walls, using technology to reimagine education. My name is I'm the host of this weekly show. I created this show because I believe our society has changed a lot. Social media and technology play a huge role in our changing society. As an educator, I really want to tap into this digital space and to create a virtual learning space where we can come together and be teachers and students at the same time. On this show, I interview leading professionals and educators such as Michael Hernandez to discuss topics related to social media, education, and technology. If you are new to the show, thank you so much for being here. And if you are a returning attendee, you know how much I love you and how much I appreciate your support. Without you, the show is not going to be here. And if you are watching this on replay, thank you so much, future people. Today, I'm so honored to have Michael join us and to discuss the secrets to digital storytelling and the secrets to digital writing. Michael is a nationally award-winning educator, speaker, author. He's also a consultant. Michael has been speaking at national conferences, including South by Southwest EDU, on topics related to journalism and education and technology. Michael is also an Apple Distinguished Educator, Google for Education Certified Innovator, and PBS LearningMedia Lead Innovator. And there is so much more to Michael. And we are going to invite Michael to join the live chat and to share his story and his expertise with us. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it. This is fun.
You're so welcome. And do you want to add anything to my very brief introduction of you?
Oh, no, I think you pretty much nailed it.
Thank you. And also, I want to give a shout out to the live audience here. Oh, wow. Many educators are here. It is so interesting. I almost see a divide. When I talk about social media marketing, I have all the marketers join me. And when I talk about education, I have all the educators join me, which is great. So Brad is here. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure all of you guys know each other. Michael is like a little celebrity in the education technology space. And Mikey is here. Thank you so much, Mikey. My dear friend Keith is here. Oh, thank you so much. Yes, finally, right? Are you at Starbucks, Keith? Let me know. And Jim is here. Oh, thank you so much for joining us. And I love your profile picture, Jim. It looks great. And Melissa is here. Yes, I still do have social media marketers join us. Awesome. Oh my goodness, Chocolate Johnny. Hey, Chocolate Johnny. And everyone, if you can let me know and type in the comment section where you are joining us from, that would be great. I'm sending my best wishes to you from Seoul, South Korea. Right now, it is Thursday, 6 a.m. for me. So we are just going to get started with our questions here. As always, I am going to pin the Be Live link in the comment section, okay? Anyone, if you want to join the live video chat, please feel free to click on that Be Live link and join the live video chat. So we are all familiar with the concept of digital storytelling. I think most people join the live audience are amazing digital storytellers. I love how you discuss using photography to share our stories to become a digital storyteller. And how did this idea come to you, Michael? And do you have to be a professional photographer to really tap into the power of pictures, photography to effect social change and to share stories?
Right. So my background is in film and journalism. So obviously I've been trained for that, but everybody uses photography all the time. I mean, you use your phone to take pictures and share your life with people, whether it's on your Facebook page or the social media accounts. So you already have experience being a digital storyteller. So I think maybe a lot of people might be hesitant to call themselves a digital storyteller or to incorporate that into their classes, but really you already have experience with it, a lot of experience. So I think that, like everything, we're educators, so we want to like be perfect with everything. We want to know how to do everything all at once before we bring it to our students. And I think there's a lot of barriers to that because there's a lot to learn technically. So I think, a good starting point is just to start with what you are already doing and what your students are already doing and acknowledge that and embrace that. So like you're doing right now, like we're using Facebook, it's very common. A lot of people use it. You're familiar with it. And our students too, everyone's familiar with Instagram. Kids like to use Instagram or Snapchat. And so go ahead and use those tools and start to build on those experiences you already have. And then as you learn more, as you, I guess, get your kids to help teach you how to use it. That's what I do. I have no ego about that. Like, teach me, kids, and they're happy to tell their teacher how to do something. It makes them feel really smart and important, which is true. Yeah, I think it's an easy place to start, and I think it's important because more and more that's how we consume information about the world, is on social media, and it's very visual. So whether it's photos or video or text, even, you're typing in a tweet, that's authorship. So I think we're already doing it. It's just a matter of how can we refine that and how can we use it in meaningful ways, in our classrooms.
Yeah, that's great. I think, regardless of like you are an educator or like social media marketer, I think it is really important that we meet our audience where they are. In the classroom, our students are in the digital space. That's why I enjoy like incorporating like social media in my own classes, because that's where they are. That's the language they speak. In social media marketing, it is the same. We need to be where our audience is.
Exactly. And I think a lot of times in innovation realm, certainly in high school, but I think also in college, there's a certain line that gets drawn that you're not doing real scholarship if it's social media or if it's digital. There's like sort of that myth around the printed text that's gone through the publication process, and there's definite advantages to that, but if we want to democratize it, if we want to empower students, if we want to hear diverse voices, it's important that we embrace these tools so that we can hear diverse voices. Kids can make their ideas known and shared. And as an educator, you're probably doing amazing things in your classroom right now. Like, how can we help other teachers get better? And so there's the story that we can teach in our classrooms about what we're doing. It's a project, it's a reaction to a comment a student made, it's an observation you had on a field trip or with another educator. Those are important stories that all need to be told, and we can't wait for years out some publication company to decide that our story is worth printing. So I think it's sort of what I'm saying, it's sort of an interesting distinction that's made. Like, if you're a serious academic, you have to be printed in a book, and if it's digital, then it's not. But the reality is maybe if you're a researcher, but if the reality is most people don't get their information from tomes from the library. They're finding things online.
That is so true. I want to know, like, how many of you, everyone in the live audience, when was the last time that you actually go to a library physically or visit their website to download an academic paper or like read a book? I don't think so. I think, as you mentioned, most people are just like doing Google search. I have a quick story. I can so relate to this. I see myself as a very non-traditional educator. I'm in this digital space where I feel like I can have bigger and stronger impact. And this quick story is, I heard one of my friends, she's also a blogger. So her school told her to stop blogging because it looks like she's now doing research. And that was, like, I think, very sad for me to hear. I think we should embrace both, especially most people are in this digital space. But anyway, that's almost like a different story. And Nick, thank you so much for joining us. And Jerry, thank you so much for being here. And I really appreciate you guys for being here. And please feel free to ask any questions. We are discussing the secrets to digital storytelling and digital writing. So do you have any success stories that you can share with us, Michael, where digital storytelling or using photography or videos or pictures, whatever you use, that has affected social change? Because I know one line of your work is like social justice through digital storytelling.
Right. Yeah. So I think I teach at a school that's a privileged school. Most of the kids are white, pretty wealthy in Southern California. So the voices that I'm able to have my students express are in that demographic range. But I think what I've done maybe for those students that I've noticed they have a lot of trouble with, like most of us do, is that we're in these silos in our society about our experiences, what we think of other people. And I think the first step to social justice is empathy and understanding. And so what I've tried to do for my students is provide experiences for them where they get to hear other voices and they get to really think and process about their experience with other folks in other cultures. And so one of the projects that I had my students do, my journalism students, is a documentary at an organization called Homeboy Industries, which is in East Los Angeles, just typically Latino, primarily neighborhood. And this organization rehabilitates former gang members. So they give them job training skills, tattoo removal, therapy, all these skill sets that they need that they don't have. And so I sent my wealthy white kids over to that part of Los Angeles to talk face to face with people that are very different from them culturally and have very different experience than them, and really get to understand them. And once you start that face to face dialogue, you really get to open up, and the kids are like, oh my gosh, they were so nice. I had no idea that these gang members are not just hardened criminals and evil people, but they're human beings like me, and the circumstances that they had, put them in a situation where they had to make choices that maybe weren't the best. And so right there, you start the ball rolling of, now I wonder about other people and culture that I'm told about. What other misperceptions do I have about other people? And so I'm working with my demographic and trying to give them those experiences. And the other thing that I did with them is we started taking documentary trips to developing countries. So we visited Cambodia and Vietnam and Cuba and Guatemala, and we take students there to interview folks who are maybe genocide survivors, and talk to people about food and culture and the history and U.S. foreign policy in those countries, and get a very different perspective than what they're getting in their textbooks. So going back to this idea of who's the gatekeeper of that information, who's like an official publishable, perspective, is that they get to hear it from the people who are actually living it. And so that really opens their eyes also to the need that they need to listen to different perspectives and voices, not just the ones that are officially sanctioned by our schools or our governments, and I think that's a really big shift to have, and it's a hard thing to do, but not everyone's able to send their kids across an ocean to make documentaries, but a lot of times a different world, a different culture is just across town. Thinking about most American cities, there's very different populations, income level, race, religion, nearby, actually very feasible. And so we need to make spaces for that, to hear the stories and to tell stories, and to also use digital storytelling to process that information, use it as a means of self-reflection and critical thinking. So if we look at publication also, digital stories as not just an end in itself, but as a step in a process that's evolving, I think that maybe is a better way to look at it, so that we're not hung up on getting everything perfect,
Yeah. Well, I just love this answer. I really think like digital media and technology has that power to really show people who we are, to humanize. We really get to know people in all parts of the globe, and really get to know them as human beings, like unfiltered through all those layers of like labels and all those things. Yeah, it is so true. And you mentioned, like, because I'm a Chinese, but I spent half of my life in China, half of my life in the US. And I can really see, for a piece of news, how the Chinese media is reporting this piece of news versus American media. It is so interesting because I always compare the Chinese language versus English. You can clearly see the difference, who is the gatekeeper, as you mentioned. And I love this you share. And the examples, what an amazing experience for the students. Oh my goodness. How old are those kids when they joined you on the trip?
Oh, well, they're high school students. So many of them are freshmen. So they're like 14 or 15. In fact, I took my daughter on this trip. We went to Cuba in February, and she came on the trip for the first time, and she was amazed. And, all these rumors that Americans have and these myths about Cubans and the government and all that stuff, was really dispelled because they're like, I can't believe people are so nice. I don't know what they were expecting, but, and that's an experience that you have to have for yourself. You don't know something until you know something. Until you experience it firsthand. And so experiential learning, I think, is part of that storytelling. We can make things up in our head, like fantasy stories or whatever, but I think reacting to an experience and then talking about it in a way that's visual or auditory or photography, is really important. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I also think, technology has enabled a much more immersive experience. Before maybe we read the story, but now it's like from my friend, I see the story from them, and they are bringing me onto the journey as opposed to inform me of the journey after the journey is finished.
Right.
And it's much more immersive and interactive. Yes, there's like great. These people are commenting and resonating with you, Michael. And we have a question from Keith, who is another amazing educator. And he asks you, is there any approval process or monitoring that you have to go through regarding any social media posting? And do things get posted publicly or only within like the classroom environment? This is a great question, Keith.
Yeah, that is a great question. A lot of teachers have that concern. A lot of school districts have that concern. So I'm working with high school students who can technically have their own personal social media accounts, and legally they're fine. And so I would encourage people to publish publicly, because that's the point. If you publish it in your classroom, what's the point of that? Because it's no different than just asking the students to write an essay that you read and then you throw away. The point of, you have to emphasize the social part of social media. So for an example, a few years ago, we took students, this is like maybe 5 years ago, and a student made a documentary. She was a sophomore at the time, so she was probably about 15. And she posted her documentary on her personal YouTube account. So she came to school one day and she says, hey, Mr. Hernandez, I got this really interesting comment. And the person was really upset with my documentary. And I'm like, let's take a look. And because she had the comments section open to people can comment. And the feedback was somebody living in Cuba. So we're in California, but somebody in Cuba saw her documentary in another country and gave her feedback, and he kind of slammed her because he said, you overlooked these things, you didn't talk about these parts of our government. And, it was sort of the documentary was like sort of an uplifting sort of piece. And he's like, wait a minute, you didn't talk about these things. And so it made her really realize what she had missed, that she hadn't thought about perspectives. And also they entered into this dialogue in the comments section where she was explaining what she was trying to do and her perspective. And he got to understand her and what she was trying to do. And she got to understand his perspective and talk about authentic learning, right? Like she never would have got that mind shift. She never would have had that critical thinking outside, in my classroom. It had to come from the outside. It had to come from somebody real. It's kind of like, and if you have kids, you can tell them what they should be doing or not doing, and they don't listen to you, but they'll listen to their friends or they'll listen to somebody else, right? And so when you open it up to being authentically published, a lot of things happen. First of all, you have this dialogue. Second of all, you have impact on the world, because what's the point of spending all our time and energy if you don't have any impact? I think that's a problem. And that real feedback is important. And also, if kids know that somebody outside their class is going to see it, like their friends or their parents or somebody in another country, maybe it puts a little bit more onus on them to do a better job and to get it right. And they know that people are going to see it, so I better shape it up. It's kind of like you take your Snapchat photo, you're going to get the angle just right and the lighting just right, or the background.
That's right. Oh, did I lose him? Can you guys still see me? Okay, let me see. Is Michael frozen Everyone, can you please let me know? It looks like he's frozen on my screen. And please let me know if he's also frozen on the Facebook. Oh, he's frozen. Okay. I'm going to bring him down and hopefully he can join us. But those are some really amazing points. I think like another way, like we see the power of social media, of technology, right? But I think on the other hand, and we probably don't realize the impact of our story on other people's lives. Like the YouTube video you mentioned, I think in the traditional media space, like for me, as an educator, I write a research paper, but how often the people I talked about in the research paper are actually going to view the research paper? Not that often, but once you put yourself in the public space, and you are more likely to encounter people in that demographic in terms of the people you covered in your paper. And I think in a way, you have to be okay with being vulnerable in the public space, being okay to put yourself, like my show, I make mistakes, I'm in the public space. But like we all have that fear of being judged, but don't let that to stop you, like being okay and putting yourself in the public space and allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Welcome back, Michael.
Hey, sorry about that.
No problem. We were just talking about before the live chat, like technology and anything can happen when you go live, and it is definitely okay. Yeah. I also want to give a quick shout out to Brigitte, and she joins us from South Africa. Thank you so much. And this, just like running this show, I have people from all over the globe, US, Europe, and different countries, and Nigeria, and my friend Nick is from Nigeria. Oh my goodness. Sarah is here, and she's from UK. Thank you so much, guys. We are talking about digital storytelling and digital writing. If you have any questions, please feel free to type in the comment section. I also pinned the Be Live link, okay? Anyone who is brave enough, I challenge you to click on the Be Live link, and you can join our video chat to say hi to us or ask any questions you have for Michael. Michael is an amazing educator and speaker and author. Yes. And so we cannot finish that discussion, and I'm just going to move to the next question. So you are also an author, Michael, and in one of your books, and you talk a lot about like conducting video interviews and using videos and video storytelling. In fact, I was reading a report by Cisco, and they predicted that in 3 years, video is going to represent 82% of the internet traffic. That is a lot. I think that really shows the power of video storytelling. Like for myself, I conduct live video all the time. So I wonder if you can share with us how doing live video interview or video interview is different from the traditional face-to-face interview, and any do's and don'ts that you can share with us in terms of doing video interviews.
Yeah, so I put the link to the book that she's talking about in the comment section there. Hopefully you guys can see that. So essentially the skills are the same. It's to really, first of all, get to know that person before you show up. I tell my students to do what's called a pre-interview. So you talk to them on the phone or face-to-face, just to kind of listen and get a sense of where you might want to take the interview, what in their experience or their expertise do you want to focus on, then write your questions, and then before you turn on camera and all of that. And there's a lot of technical considerations when you're doing video interviews, of course. And the biggest one is sound, actually. So, we can frame our shots for photography, but the sound is really important. So I would say go to a quiet space, use a good microphone if you can get one, and plug it into your camera. And that's really important because what they have to say is important. And then there's other technical elements for the visuals. So you want to have enough lighting on them so they're not too dark, because then they look like a shady character. You want your camera to be straight and level, because again, if your camera is off balance a little bit, they can look crooked, and so we want to have trustworthiness. And there's a certain level of ethics actually that go into making sure that your shot is in focus and exposed right, and the camera's level, because you could give subtle cues to the audience psychologically about how to interpret this person based on just how you shoot it. So if you're not paying attention, you could have these subtle subliminal messages that you're sending to the audience about that person's credibility and their trustworthiness.
Yeah. Like, do you think, like, many of us, I don't have a professional photography or like video or film background. So for people like us, like, how should we get started on this? Like, should we like invest in like some sort of gears or equipment? Like how or any resources you can share with us, or tips or specific actions we can take to be better at this?
Right. So I put the link to that book in there, and you can go access that. It's got a lot of details on it, but your phone is probably your best tool because you always have it with you, and the cameras on the phone are really good. So I would just say make sure you shoot horizontally, not like a Snapchat vertical video. And there's a lot of apps now that you can also add text. So Apple has a free app called Clips, and that's really great because what it does, it actually uses the Siri voiceover so that if you're connected to Wi-Fi, you can actually do subtitles. So this is a great experience where I actually did a project with my deaf and hard of hearing students that I had last year, and they're signing. So that's an experience where you have to see the sign language, right? You can't just hear the voice like in a podcast. And so as they sign, the translator was speaking, and then at the bottom, it would like lay out with Siri the text of exactly what they were saying. So it was subtitling automatically. So that's a really great tool for everyone. So if you have, speaking of accessibility issues for students who, maybe process differently, or they're hard of hearing or things like that, you can use apps like that to really make those interviews kind of stand out. And that's a free app. It's called Clips. And there's other apps too that you can use for video editing that are free. iMovie is one that's on your phone and iPad. Also, Adobe has Spark Video, which is a free editing tool as well. So there's ways that we can do that. Microphones, you can see I'm wearing a microphone right now. It's called the earbuds of my phone. So this is also acts as a good microphone, better than the one that's built into your phone because it kind of takes away some of the background sounds. So that's sort of an easy, cheap way to do it. And then if you really want to geek out, you can get adapters that would plug into your phone or your iPad. You can plug in professional quality microphones if you really want to.
Yeah. But I think just to start out, all those free apps you mentioned are good enough. I highly recommend. I love every single app you mentioned. Everyone in the live audience to check them out. And if you have any apps or tools that you personally prefer and use a lot to produce videos, audios, or pictures, please share with us. We are in this space to learn from each other. And I just brought my friend Brigitte here. And thank you so much for joining us live from South Africa. What time is it for you?
Hi there. This has been amazing. I've been wanting to go live with you for the longest time and just never had the opportunity. And I thought, well, I'm live. I'm here now watching. I might as well just click on the link and go live. It's 11:30 p.m. here.
Wednesday.
Wow.
On Wednesday, yes, 11:30 on Wednesday.
It's awesome. I just love somehow we are in this global time zone and we are here chatting about the same topic, but we are in different parts of the globe and different time zone. It's just mind blowing. Yes. Yeah. Do you have a question for us?
No, I just wanted to pop in and say hello very quickly. And talking about things that I love to use, I use Canva and Preview quite extensively to do my show cards, to do my lower thirds. It's really easy to use. And so that's my favorite app. That's my favorite go-to app for frames and lower thirds.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I love Canva. Canva is really fantastic.
Yeah, I finally upgraded to Canva for work. And it's really, because I have been using their free version for a long time. And one thing interesting with Canva for work is that you can like transform your pictures into GIFs. they have that, like, it's really interesting. And you can also create like a theme color for your brand and a lot more options for templates, and yeah, very nice.
Wow, wow. Talking about microphones, you know what I discovered? I've got a secondhand condenser microphone, which I absolutely love. I mean, it's probably about 60, 70 centimeters away from, and my sound still comes through clearly. But what I found is my microphone on my desk. And the one thing I hate when I'm doing live streams is that you hear the mouse clicking. You know, the microphone was that sensitive to pick that up, or if you're typing would pick up that sound. But I've now taken it off the desk, and so it's helped greatly. I don't pick up desk sounds or mouse clicks and stuff on my microphone any longer. So that's one tip for anyone else who's using an external microphone.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I used to use an external microphone. Then my older son smashed my microphone. So I'm just using this. And yeah. But anyway, thank you for joining us, Brigitte. And I love seeing you and chatting with you. And thank you.
Thanks for having me on. And nice to meet you, Michael.
Yeah, I think he's frozen again. Oh, he's back. Thank you.
He's back.
You were frozen there for 1 second. I'm going to bring you down, Brigitte. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. I highly recommend everyone in the live audience check out the books that Michael shared with us, and those are really like great books for you to become better at video and digital storytelling. And thank you for joining us, Natasha from Grace. I saw a comment from my friend Jerry, and I think this is so true. You know, I think as teachers and as students, we always need to embrace this notion of being a lifelong student, you know, to continuously educate ourselves and to learn about digital literacy and to become digital literate. And those are just like important, you know, even if we got our so-called terminal degrees, they are just not enough. Yeah. So Michael, how long have you been on this journey of being a digital storyteller, and how has doing this, your digital and social media presence, changed or benefited your professional career?
Well, like I said, I started off going to film school. So I started off, I guess that's digital storytelling. I was shooting films. That was analog back then. But, you know, once social media started to take over, like 2008, 2009, I really was influenced by some other educators that showed me what was possible. And joining those networks really transformed me as a professional, because it's literally like this data stream, this news feed that I look at every morning, and I'm inspired. And there's things that I use in my classroom every week that I find in articles that are posted by people that I follow on social media. So even, you know, yesterday we were doing the Innovators Compass. If you've ever used that as like a brainstorming innovation tool, and that's somebody that I met online who was sharing this resource, and then I share it to everybody else. And, you know, articles about, you know, how I make my classroom more like a startup space than a top-down teacher to lecture a classroom. And there's all these resources that are popping up. And so I couldn't live without it. I would be a much worse teacher if I didn't have access to social media and those accounts, because, you know, it's about sharing. It's about what you're sharing, the good things are happening in your classroom and your learning space. It's about a great article that you find that might be helpful. And also I would say too, using social media as that learning tool, probably my most important personal learning network, is that to diversify. And so some of my favorite people that I follow in organizations and accounts are not teachers. So they're like psychologists, or it's like Harvard Business Review, or, you know, these articles that they post about leadership and innovation and, you know, social media, or, you know, how to write headlines for a Twitter post or something like a blog post. And those are tools and those are ideas that I can use in my classroom. So if we get out of this silo of like, it must be an education, it's got to be like somebody with a PhD in education, those are great, knowledgeable people as well. But like everybody, you want to diversify. And so I share that with my students too. I like try to model the learning. I want you guys to reach out to credible sources. I want you to like bring in different perspectives that you don't have access to physically on this campus, because the world is knowledgeable. In fact, we were just having this conversation with my students this morning. We were doing the final, and like the hive is always smarter than you are. So how are you connecting to people around the world who maybe have shared interests, or like, inspire you or push you to try things or think about the world differently? And I think part of it is physically the information that you're gathering from posts, and part of it is the mindset that being static is not healthy, it's not successful, and it doesn't model for our students the way we want them to be lifelong learners. So if we talk about wanting our kids to be lifelong learners, what are we doing to show them, and are we doing that ourselves? So for so many reasons, I think that we need to act. And maybe one of the biggest struggles, I think, for people is that they don't know where to start. Like, how do I find these people in these organizations that are going to give me good things? And so that's the whole other ball of wax we can get into at another time about finding those people. But you start off slow and see who they're following, and join a Twitter chat, and you'll meet people that way. And it's been really great. I've met some of my best friends, strangely enough, through social media, not in a weird way, but like other educators. And then we go to a conference, and then we present together. And that's the first time that I've met them face to face, is actually at a conference. Johanna Prince, who's in Maine, a friend connected us, and we didn't meet face to face for the first time until we went to South by Southwest and presented. It was pretty awesome. So, you leverage the power of the internet, leverage the power of social media to make you a better teacher and a better person, and model that for your kids.
Oh, there's like so many great points. I think regardless of you are a teacher or not, I think every single profession can benefit from this digital space. I think technology has the power to amplify what one person can do. You are really here, as you mentioned, to share, to co-create, and it's so amazing. Like, I think as you were talking, and I think 80% of my work is like collaboration with people I have even never ever met in person. That's like 80% of my work. I don't even know if I'm ever going to connect with them in person, but we are like best friends, and we connected through mainly like Twitter and LinkedIn, professional networks. It is so amazing. I really encourage everyone in the live audience to give this a try, like just really make an effort to cultivate that one-on-one relationship with people you connected through the virtual space. Yeah. And here is a quick technical question from Keith. He is asking us, and what camera and mics do we use for this interview? And you want to start, Michael?
For this current one, or for any kind of interview?
I think for you, you can talk about both. Yeah, I think because this is the only interview I do, you seem to do a lot outside the,
Yeah, okay, so, I mean, it depends. And I would, again, don't bite off more than you can chew. Some cameras can get really complicated and expensive. Like I said, your phone is probably your best tool, because everyone's familiar with it, and you already have them for the most part, depending on your demographic. And it's easy and simple. I'd start with simple and focus on the storytelling. Don't focus on the gear. If you want to geek out and get really complicated and technical, there's definitely a lot of routes you could go with that. My students, because we teach broadcast journalism as well as film production, I have professional grade video cameras with tripods and XLR audio cables that plug into the side, and these big boom microphones and all of that. And I'm happy to geek out with you on that at some point in another chat. But for most of us and for most teachers, I think that's beyond the scope of our knowledge and our budget. So, I'd start with your phone or your iPad. And I know somebody left a comment about missing that Movie Maker was gone off of PCs and stuff. And there's a couple of options. There's WeVideo that's for free, but Adobe Spark is definitely a good video editing tool. But the cameras, I mean, you can use your DSLR video camera or like still camera, the one with the detachable lens. Those shoot video. The audio is not so good on those, so you'd want to make sure you get one with a microphone input, and you can plug an adapter into and plug it into a mic. And then I've also seen great work that students have done using the webcam on their laptops. So again, if depending on the age and what you're trying to do, you can do great storytelling with the microphone on your earbud and also the webcam that's in front of you if you want just that visual. It's harder to do, like one of the things, this debate that I've heard going on in education circles is should we get Chromebooks or should we get iPads and all of that. And Chromebooks are an affordable price point, but iPads now are a lot cheaper, and they also have a built-in video camera. So if you're in a Chromebook environment or you're thinking of moving that direction, the downside is you don't have a video camera. You'd have to buy another video camera, and you have no video editing software because it's a web browser. So there's different factors you want to consider if you're thinking of incorporating these kinds of projects into your class. And maybe start with one and test it out and see how that works. I would always start small, and then see what's working for you and what doesn't. And there's a lot of great resources out there. If you connect with me on Twitter, I'm happy to share some of those perspectives with you. I think I put my Twitter handle in the chat comment box there and Facebook, so check that out, and I'm happy to talk to you more about it later. And if I see you at a conference, even better. I'm going to be at ISTE in a couple weeks. Yeah, and
that's awesome. I think those are really great tips. For me, I just use this one you saw and built in a web camera. And I think, just like, don't let those things stop you. If you're thinking about all those like options, availabilities, you are just feel, oh my God, this is too much. And I think as Michael mentioned, as long as you have a Wi-Fi connection, you have your cell phone, just, my friend, Chocolate Johnny always says, just press the button, like, I think just take baby steps and give it a try, and slowly you can upgrade. And just before we wrap up here, I have this amazing question from my dear friend Natasha, who is joining us from Grace. And she asked if you have any advice for people who are introvert. And so many of my friends are introverted. And so I love this question. Do you have any tips for people who feel kind of like camera shy? And so how do they overcome that? Any advice?
Yeah, so it depends on which side of the camera you're on. I guess if you're on the receiving end and you're the one who's like the camera is aimed at, that's a little bit different than if you're behind the camera. But it can be definitely tricky when you're behind the camera asking questions of people, especially if it's sensitive, or if you're talking to somebody who has a different power level than you are. For example, if you're a teacher interviewing an administrator, or if it's a student interviewing a teacher, that could be really, really tricky. I think maybe you want to reframe it in terms of just listening rather than talking. And so you can frame the conversation with them and say, hey, I'm really interested in your thoughts on this. And I want you to just like, tell me what you know, tell me your story and your perspective on these questions. And you just put the question out one at a time, let them answer entirely, and be very active, look into their eyes, nod like you're paying attention, wait, don't ever interrupt them, and let them finish. And then once they know that you're actually listening and paying attention, they'll warm up to you, and they'll start to like let the floodgates open and tell you more. So if you frame it as not an interrogation, but as a listening exercise, I think that might be helpful for both parties and help everybody relax.
Yeah. It's like definitely like great advice. Yeah. And also I love this comment from Suzanne. She's like, we can start by following you. Yes, definitely, right? Just everyone follow Michael. And yes, this great comment from Maggie, leading by example, regardless being like a parent or being an educator or even being a leader, we have to walk the talk, otherwise what's the point? Why people want to listen to you. Yes. So we are just wrapping up here. Okay. Has been almost 1 hour. And what is next for you, Michael? And how can we support your content, or what is the next endeavor or initiative for you?
Wow. Well, I'm going to be at ISTE in about a week and a half. I'll be presenting some sessions on digital storytelling and some great iPad tools there. After that, I'm going to Guatemala for a teacher training trip for digital storytelling. And I put a link in the Facebook comments there about our trip for next summer to Vietnam. So if teachers are interested in learning how to do digital storytelling hands-on, you can sign up for that trip to Vietnam next summer in 2019. And also, it's pretty cool. And so I'm really lucky. I just published 2 really important big things I've been working on for a while. One is an ebook on how to use digital books in your classroom through Book Creator. And then I also just recently had a course go live on paced. You can sign in and take it at your leisure. So those are the two big things that. What's next? This summer, I've got a couple trips. I'll be working with some folks at Apple and Adobe this summer. I'm really excited about. And then Digital Book World in October, which is going to be in Nashville. So I'm looking forward to that.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And all the trips you mentioned, they're great. So for those like digital teachers training, did you organize those trips yourself?
No,
like
I work with the Yeah, I work with an agency that coordinates all the travel arrangements, but I'm there with the teachers doing hands-on work with them. So we do instruction, and then they actually do a project themselves while we're there. We walk them through it. So while we're sightseeing and visiting folks, we have access to NGOs. We have access to, we're going to Guatemala. We'll be speaking with some genocide survivors and interviewing them, talk about being nervous and being prepared for that. But these very powerful moments that, again, to have that physical experience, to know what it's like, you'll come back to your classrooms much more knowledgeable, much more experienced. You'll know what to expect. So when you give those assignments to your kids, you'll have a better sense of what it's really like for them and what they'll expect. So that's the idea, is that everybody can tell more stories digitally, and everybody's better because of it.
Oh, that's amazing. Where can we watch some videos of those professors or yourself, their like video productions? Are they on YouTube or?
Right. So this will be the first trip we've taken. So we'll post, later this summer, we should have those posts go live, and I can share with you some of those teacher projects. But I also shared in the comments section down below, like a little while ago, links to projects my students have done. And so you can see information about our trip and see some of the videos they produced, including the ones we just did in Cuba.
Oh, I love this. I love how you bring learning outside the classroom. I think that's where real learning happens, which is outside the classroom, hands-on. Oh, I love it. You're just like so amazing. Yeah, I can just chat with you like forever. Yes. So final piece of advice in terms of digital writing and digital storytelling, and where can people discover more about you?
Okay, sure. So I have my website, michaelhernandez.net. I will share that link with you, and you can see more of my resources, courses that I have, and books that I've published. But the advice that I would give to everybody is digital storytelling starts with writing. So that's the core fundamental piece of everything. So it's research, it's critical thinking, it's structure and organization, it's writing voiceovers, it's writing good interview questions. It actually does come back to writing always. So don't feel like if you're an English or social studies teacher that you're abandoning those kinds of skills. You should be, building on those skills. You're adding now also visuals and metaphors and sound and emotion rather than just straight text. So just remember that that's the core of everything, and that's where you should start. So important conversations we just had about what kind of camera and gear you should use, what kind of microphones, but don't overlook the fundamental basis of all this, which is writing and good ideas.
Yeah, that's just so true. I think technology is a means for us to accomplish something bigger. Technology is not an end in itself. Like whatever you do, technology can facilitate that and can make that happen. Yeah, regardless of English major, I think writing is great. It's even more so in the digital space. When you even send out like a post on Facebook, it is writing. Yeah. And I love it when educators have their own website. And I really see you as an educator and practitioner. You really embody both. I think that's the best way to teach in the classroom. Not only you are immersed in the classroom, but you are also immersed in the real industry. So you can bring that practical dimension to classroom learning, which is great. Yeah. And so thank you so much, Michael, for a great conversation, a chat. And I'm sure everyone in the live audience learned a lot, and they are going to check out your content and the books and your website, and at least make sure you follow Michael on Twitter. Okay. And thank you everyone for joining us live from all over the globe, right? Classroom without walls. I think I need to make some t-shirt and to do giveaways. Yes. So thank you so much, everyone. And next week, we are going to talk about blogging in 2018 and beyond with an amazing blogger who has been blogging for many years. So I hope to see you again next Wednesday, the same time and same location. Thank you so much, Michael. And thank you so much, my dearly live audience. See you.
Bye. Thanks, everybody. Good luck.
Thank you.